Okay.
So the question today is, how does artificial intelligence and AI impact book marketing today? And Diana, you've had some research that you've done on this, so I'll kind of bring this into you. What's our tagline? What do we do at Reality Coaching?
Yes, let's not forget our tagline, where reality coaching providers offers no fluff, just the real stuff you need to succeed.
Yeah. So how does that? You've done a little bit of research on artificial intelligence and how it may impact book marketing in the future. So why don't you kind of jump in and share a little bit about what you've learned from that?
Well, this has been a topic, of course, that everybody's been harping on for months. And earlier this year on Publishers Weekly, there was an article that kind of hinted at exactly what you have said, Eddie, on your various social media posts, that it's time to adapt and embrace the new technology. It is not going away, it's here. So we're talking today about the impact of that on all facets, but especially the marketing. It's going to really play a powerful role in marketing and discovery, because it is going to be able to take all the data that's out in the stratosphere that has been published on any person and topic and bring it together. So it's going to really, give a real specificity to what you're offering and your market. And it's going to then know exactly how to target that market and help you reach the people that you've written your book for. So that's what I see.
Yeah, so it sounds like AI is able to go in and grab everything and put us in a box and say that's the box you're in, right?
Right. And so for education, it's going to be huge too. It's going to have a great impact on educational publishing, and because it's going to find hidden data, and it's going to, find that obscure data that and bring it, back into current discussions when it's applicable. So it's really going to be good. I see, it really advancing a lot of the scientific, cures for cancer, such things like that. So even though it's sounds scary, I'm sure, when they, the Wright brothers first started flying airplanes, and look now at how much it's a part of most everyday life.
Yeah.
We don't think anything of stepping on an airplane. So everything new is at first feared, but I think you and I have even gone through the phase that we're now like accepting the fact that this is part of the new geographic.
So the first place I guess I ran into the kind of what you were saying, where AI goes out and scrapes the information and drops it in, is Amazon starting to play around with this a little bit with the reviews on a book. So they're going through and harvesting all the reviews and then giving a summary. They're offering a summary review of all the reviews, right? That could be good or bad, because if you've got, a 3.8 or a 3.6 and there's a consistent theme that's running through the reviews, which is what Amazon's trying to do. They're trying to make it easy for the readers to know.
Right.
But that consistent theme is going to come up and over and over again. So if it says, well, he writes in a passive voice, or there was a lot of redundancy in the story. If readers have commented about that often enough in reviews, that's going to become part of the general big review that Amazon throws out there, and people can really quickly go, I don't need to read all the reviews, and if that's it, that's it.
Right.
And if Amazon, and kind of, this has nothing to do with book reviews, but if Amazon's doing that on book reviews and product reviews, then Google reviews, the same thing can happen. If you're in a looking at a hotel and it says cockroaches, 3 people say cockroaches were an issue, suddenly cockroaches is the thing that shows up as the general review, right? That has a big impact on a business, right? If
yes.
Go, without reading all the reviews and looking at when the reviews were posted, right? You know, in a book, let's go back to a book for a minute. You know, if there were typos in early versions of a book and the publisher goes in and cleans it up and corrects it and comments in the reviews, this was from 10 years ago, we've corrected the editing process. If that's not picked up in that general review, then that's still being presented as part of the brand of that product. So it can both be a good thing and a bad thing, I guess.
Well, hopefully, it's going to eventually pick up, differentiate between old data and new data,
Right.
But I think as far as the consumer, the reader, it's a plus plus. For the writer, we just have to learn to navigate this new terrain. We have to learn to play nice, just the way we've had to learn to play nice with Amazon, the largest bookseller in the world, right? We've had to learn to play nice with them, even though we do it often begrudgingly. But I do want to say that the one article I'm referencing was published in Publishers Weekly, was written by, I'm going to give him Thad McElroy, but he kind of projected that eventually, the good will outweigh the bad. And so he saw it actually coming and challenging Amazon's conglomerate and in the future. So I think as it all weighs out, we're going to see the benefits will outweigh the negatives, but we're going to have to speak a new language.
Yeah, I do know that I've already seen evidence of this in just doing, a little bit of research of who I am. You go, we've said this before, go out through AI and put in your name and see what comes back. I mean, that's the first place I would recommend as an author. Put your name in Chat GTP and say, I need to know something about this author, and put in your name and see what it brings back, right? Because that's the first step it's going to do.
Yeah.
And that'll tell you what your brand is, how your brand is perceived by AI, which is what's going to be, to your point, going to be published out on other sites. So in my case, I did that one time, and it came out author for YA fiction and middle grade mystery series. So, and for boys, that was in there, encouraging boys to read. All those things were loosely associated in that return that Chat gave me back, right? Which is good because that's my brand. That's the brand I was aiming for.
Right. Yeah. Smack dab your demographic. Yeah.
Right. So I mention that because if you're thinking about your brand, if you're an author and thinking about your brand, the more times you can embed those key phrases in every interview you give, in every review that goes out. If you're doing a book launch, and you're giving it to your team, say, these are the things I'm trying to focus on. So if you keep these phrases in your review, then that'll help me, that kind of thing. Or if I missed the mark, state that I missed the mark. Well, he was trying to hit, YA readers, and it seemed more like an adult novel. Well, just state it plainly. But if that's your brand, you want to make sure those key phrases are in your brand everywhere that gets published, because that's what AI sounds like. They're going to go harvest that and bring it back in.
That's so good. Yeah, and we've been wooing search engines for years now. And if you've ever written like for instance, our Inspire Fire uses a WordPress.
Right.
Is it software or format, or what's
software is good?
Okay, software. And so in order, we've learned how to woo the search engines to find our articles with key phrases. So it's interesting. I love that tip, Eddie, for every time you're interviewed or whatever, bring in your key phrases, mention it. That's awesome. That's a great way. And if anybody questions who they are, I mean, that's the eternal question, right? Who am I? What is my reason for being? Exactly. But it's, there's a whole process in finding your brand. That's a great way to really look at where you've help you define it, is to use Chat GPT to even
Yeah,
help you out with that. Yeah.
yeah.
And
But
also, yeah.
and I like, that's what I was saying earlier, though, it does put you in a box because, you know, even though I may also write, you know, Christian living nonfiction, and I may also write, you know, weird romantic comedy humorous stuff. If
Hmm.
I'm not talking about that in interviews, if I'm not pitching that, that's not going to get picked up as much, right? It may not
Right.
even get mentioned at all. You know, people may come to me and come to my thing expecting they're going to see why, and they see 3 devotionals or, you know, something like that, or a bunch of boating books, and go, where'd that come from, right? So um, that's the other thing, I guess, as authors, we need to keep that in mind. If we want to write, and kind of what you were saying earlier, if you know this, then you've got the opportunity to leverage it to your advantage. So if you want to write in multiple genres and be known
Hmm.
for writing in multiple genres, AI will help you there if you plant those key phrases often enough in reviews. Not you, but people plant them in reviews or in interviews or in blog posts or whatever. If you plant those key phrases that you're writing romantic comedy as well, or you're writing Christian living devotionals as well, you keep adding that, it'll get tagged at the bottom of your profile, that kind of thing.
You just raised a good thing to discuss. So, in the past, I, as an agent, used to, people would come to me and say they wanted to use a pen name. And I always discouraged them because in the past, marketing was always associated with your name. So if you were writing under a pen name here in this genre, and then under another name in the other one, how are you going to market to all of your audience, all your readers? It made it hard. But now that we're talking about this type of branding, pen names might be a good way to go, because if you're writing adult romance, when we say adult, Eddie and I here, we are not talking about adult content, me meaning above R-rated and above. We're generally in the PG, we're talking when we talk about adult, but a specific age. If you're writing adult romance, rom-com, and you're also writing Christian living, well, a pen name might differentiate your two audiences
Sure.
and be a good distinction.
Yeah, you could kind of hide, or you could link them together. I can't remember now what Stephen King's pen name was. I knew it for a long time, but he had a pen name that he wrote under, and you know, because he was trying. There were certain things he was trying to try, and
Okay.
I may have this not completely right, but I think it was he was trying to try different genres, and he wanted to see whether or not his name was selling the books or whether the content was selling the books.
Oh,
You know, like you know, it's just like a self test.
yeah,
After you've built up a following and people will buy anything that you write. Well, what if you're writing junk and people are still buying it? How do you know it's junk, right? And so
right.
kind of like a test that King did. I was like, I'll throw this out there as like a short story and just see if people still go, wow, that's great. And I can't remember his name. Maybe I'll find him.
It was Richard Bachman.
There you go. There you
Richard
go.
Bachman. And
Right.
there's a whole article on how he and where he used it and
Yeah.
why. So
Right.
yeah, that'd be worth checking out.
Yeah, so switching gears a little bit. So my research in the last week is on AI had to do with kind of what we're talking about when we started about how much AI has just begun to infiltrate the writing process, and
Hmm.
how really resisting AI, that's fine. I mean, you know, people are going to take a stand, and if they want to take a stand forever, and like you said, refuse to fly on airplanes, which is almost the stance that I've got these days. It's almost willing to say I don't want to fly. If I can't take a train or a car, I'm not going to go, or a boat. Um, you know, but if you want to take that stance, that's fine. But we are going to have to we're going to have to deal with the um, questions that come at us from the publisher, from the publishing side of this. So right now, Amazon has implemented a question, a form that you have to complete, not a form, but it's a radio checkbox or a radio button. When you run anything through Amazon KDP now, it asks you, was this content generated through AI, or was it did AI assist in the writing of the content? So there are 4 different questions that get thrown out there. And at first pass you may go, well, no, I didn't use AI. I mean, I just wrote it in Microsoft Word and I, turned it in, and my publisher picked it up and it got published and da. Okay. Except now Microsoft is implementing Copilot, which is part of their product that's rolling out, hasn't rolled out yet, but they're rolling it out. That's an AI writing assistant.
Right.
Very similar to what Grammarly already has in their premium program. And if you go down and look at all the things that Grammarly will do for you, it has to do with reworking a phrase, reworking a sentence, reworking a paragraph, right? So now, as a writer, you're going, okay, if I don't want to use AI, I can't use Microsoft Word. I can't use Grammarly. I don't know what I'm going to use, but if I want to be pure as AI, I guess it's going to be a typewriter or a handwritten legal document. And I hope my proofreaders don't use AI when they proof it. Right? So
right. Yeah.
It's going to open up a lot of, I think, conflicted conscious stuff with writers of how they're going to remain cured to this anti-AI, and at the same time, it's actually getting built into the platform anyway. It just is.
Right. Yeah, my Microsoft Word, I have a new 365 Microsoft Word, and the editor in that is already above Grammarly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have it yet, but that's what I hear is it's above Grammarly. In fact, I think
it is.
I think
it even challenges your prepositions and asks you if this is the correct preposition you want to use.
Yeah.
And there's actually a section marked inclusion, and it will challenge a paragraph if you're being inclusive in a paragraph.
Yeah. So it's already there.
So we've been using AI. Spell check is AI, even though
and if it's I'm not sure if the resistance comes because it's done by a computer. I don't know if that's where the resistance is coming from within certain segments of the writing community. Because I was thinking about this when when I send my documents off to proofreaders and they come back with track changes.
Right.
If it's Denise or Andrea, I mean, for the most part, Diane, I'm just going to be honest. I don't go through all the changes. I just don't. I just accept them all. They know better than I do what the grammar is. They just do. And I'm not going to sit there and squabble over it. And if it changes the sentence a little bit and it's not exactly the way I had it written, but it's grammatically correct, make it grammatically correct. I don't care. So I just accept them all and move on. Maybe that's just wrong on my part, but I do. But that's a human that gave me advice on how to improve my writing. That's not me writing that. That's another person giving me advice saying this is a better way to write it. So how is that different than a computer doing exactly the same thing based on input, that this is the Chicago manual style and this is the right way? And I can't see the difference between Andrea or Denise saying, Eddie, this is the better way to write it, or Chad or Microsoft Word saying this is the better way to write it. I can't see the difference in that.
Right. Yeah. No. And another advantage is even going to be for those that write historical fiction. They're going to just be able to type into Chat GPT back in 1800s. When did antibiotics first come into use? And then they're going to be able to plug that into their historical novel so much quicker than the way they used to have to wade through information. We're going to have that strategic data available, so it's going to be very helpful. And I think, Eddie, the resistance comes right now because it is going to change the earning ability of a writer. It's going to challenge us in our pocketbooks. And that's where I think the pushback comes, like we've seen with the Writers Guild strike.
Yeah.
It will impact that. And you and I have given tips in the past, and we might have to, do whole segments on that, episodes on that, about ways to go around it to increase your revenue. And but I think that's part of the pushback. It's going to start taking a piece of the pie from the writers that already have a small pice of the pie.
And I still, again, I know I am going to get, pushback from a lot of people when I say this, but I am the guy that embraces trends. If a trend is going to roll over me and bury me, then I'm going to find a way to hop on that thing as it comes speeding by, so I don't get run down. That's just the way I roll.
That's the surfer in you. You're going to catch the wave.
I'm going to catch the wave rather
Yeah.
than drown. I mean, that's why I got out of selling printing paper back in the mid '90s, is because I looked at the internet, I looked at the web browser, and I was like, this is going to put printers, a lot of printers out of business. They're not we're not going to need carbonless forms anymore. People can just read a website. I mean, I knew that. I just looked at it and knew it. So if I was a screenwriter, if I was anybody in the creative field, I would be all over AI, learning as much as I can about Midjourney and chat and everything else, finding a way to bring my expertise and go, okay, you want to write a good story? These are the things that we're going to need. This is the thing that automation can do for us. These are the things it can't do well for us. Let's put a team together, let it do the grunt work, and we'll do the creative work on it and get paid to do that. Xena can do that.
Right.
She knows what a good story is. Chat GPT does not know what a good story is. It just doesn't. I hate to keep beating it up, but yesterday I asked Chat GPT to go in and take one scene to change a screenplay, just to take the screenplay and take the character tags at the top. They're all in caps, centered. They're all centered. Daddy, daughter, daddy, daughter. And I just said, change this to novel writing with dialogue tags, so we know who the speakers are, which would have been comma, quotation, daddy said, comma, quotation, the daughter said. Right? It couldn't do it. It couldn't do it without rewriting the text. No matter how many times I said, please don't rewrite the text, just give me the tag. It couldn't do it. And I tell you that because there are just some things the artificial intelligence is just going to stumble over. For a long time, they're going to stumble over it. Well, in the meantime, things aren't being created quickly. Switching hats one more time for one more thing that I think keeps coming up, and that's Midjourney. And we haven't really talked a whole lot about Midjourney.
No, yes.
And I've started using it with memes, and I've started using it in the graphic novels. And the Midjourney thing is much more, I think, invasive and borderline. It's definitely icky. I will say that it's icky as far as what it's able to do, because it goes out and harvests images off the web. I don't know where it gets it, but if you've got, if you're Adobe, or iStock image or anybody like that, and you've got images that are copyright protected, that's their property, right? So Midjourney shouldn't be going out there grabbing those images, because they don't have permission for those images, right? So when you ask it to do an illustration and it goes out and you don't know where it's getting the source data to build the image, yeah, that's a little bit icky, right? So I don't know whether I'm using somebody else's copyrighted material. So that one's the one that's really, I've been using Midjourney, trying to learn how to use it. But I think I found a workaround that can be a lot of fun. And that is, if you're concerned about the source that the images are coming from, then upload your own sources. Okay. So what I did was, this week when going out of Moore Square, I decided to build a little graphic cartoon for the little tracks that we give out. Normally, it's just been a little illustration of face of Jesus and then the passage of whatever Jesus says, right? And I decided to do a little graphic novel of the same thing. But I needed the face of Jesus, and I didn't want to go out and just say, well, go get me a face of Jesus, and no idea
Right.
where they went and got it.
Right.
So I uploaded my own face. So I became Jesus this week in my graphic novel, right?
Okay.
And earlier this week, and I'm gonna get on this later today. There's a guy I met Sunday down at Moore Square, a guy named Curtis, uh, and I wanted to tell a story about him. So for him, I uploaded a picture of my dad when my dad was 25 years old and in the military, right? So that's the picture that we start with for Curtis, right? And then Midjourney changes the features a little bit. But for the people that know my dad and the people that know me, they can look at these pictures and go, yeah, it does look a little bit like you, right? So that's a workaround. So I'm throwing this out there. If you've got qualms about using Midjourney because of the copyright issue, go take your own pictures or go grab your own pictures that you've taken pictures of and upload them as the source. And then use those as your background, use those as your character faces, use those as your outfits, right? And then just let Midjourney do the drawing part of it. That's all you're asking it to do, is just to draw things because you can't draw it really well. And because, if you don't have an illustrator that's willing to do it at your budget, what are your options? And that's what Midjourney does. It just draws things. Diana, I don't really see it being that much different than putting things into Photoshop and saying, change the filters on this. Turn
Right.
this picture
Right.
into a sketch, into an illustration, and Photoshop will do that. We've been okay with that for all these years. And I'll keep coming back to this because I don't want people to run off and do anything illegal, immoral.
Right. Right.
But at the same time, if I don't get involved in it and learn it, I really can't guide people. And so I'm going to be in this a little bit
Right.
more.
No, that's great. That's great. And in this whole, using, I talked about air flight and its, transformation. Think of the way Disney originally animated movies. It was so laborious. It was so, hours and hours and hours. And that process has been speeded up so much, with the digital transformation of digital art. But like you said, now it's gonna continue to become easier and easier for people to animate their stories, and create these things. So, but like you said, we want to make sure that we are not infringing on copyrights and other people's intellectual property.
Right.
Because that is a whole industry. I mean, there are lawyers that just specialize in going after people that steal intellectual property. So you want to be really careful about that. So definitely. Yeah. Eddie, would you be able to upload that little track you designed?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
And we'll put that in our description box so people can reference it and kind of see what you did with Midjourney.
Yeah, I mean, Diane, Midjourney for me takes a lot of time, so I don't spend a ton of time working on it because once I start, I can eat up 3 hours of my day, and I've got to be productive doing other things. So I'm learning it, having fun with it at the same time, but I really don't have a lot of luxury time to go and mess around with this. But I do get excited about it because every time I'm involved, I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And I'll give you one example. Last night I was talking to Daniel down at Moore Square. He's a street preacher that goes over to UNC's campus and NC State's campus, and he goes on the Brickyard. So he's preaching the gospel and trying to reach kids for Christ, right? And I told him one of these little tracks, that I did for Sunday, and I said, you can take this, and I said, are you still? Yeah, I'm still there. All right, so
I'm here. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the upgrade thing came up and it just blew me
okay.
away. But I said, Daniel, you can take these and whatever your message is in a very short, whatever that verse that you think is key, I said, we can do this and we can then turn around and put your face on a college student, for example, and put an NC State or a UNC, shirt. We can just say UNC or NC State on the shirt of the character, right? You can tailor it to the university where you are when you pass these things out.
Oh, wow.
I'll bet you'll get more engagement from people going, oh, this is cool. this is cool. This is, right? It's just,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
it's really easy to do. So, and I throw this out there for anybody watching. If you're in ministry work, if you're in marketing work, if you're whatever you're doing, if you're selling tires, you can use Midjourney to create your own little graphic, whatever, tailor it for your neighborhood, your church, your mission, your whatever, and just go out and start handing these out. And that may be a better way to get people engaged and interested in your shop, your business, your organization, your church, whatever it is you're trying to do. I mean, I was thinking for a church,
Yeah.
if there's a new apartment building that just went up, go create this for your church. Go, just go door to door, slide them, put them wherever they're allowed to solicit. Drop one in, and there's their church, their apartment building. There's your church, and it's a little cartoon, and boom, people go, "Oh, I get this. It's for us."
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Now, is it is there a monthly charge for using Midjourney? What are the levels of it?
Yeah, it's like $10 a month. And of course, I paid an extra $4 this month because I used up all my time because I'm spending a lot of time learning, and the trial and the error, it gets expensive because I'm wasting a ton of time giving it the wrong prompts. That's really where the learning is. You got to learn how to make Midjourney work to the prompts. But when I was talking to Caleb Sunday, he said his brothers are into Midjourney. They've learned a lot about it, and he said you can actually download the code to your computer. You can actually, instead of paying Midjourney, you can just, if you know how to do code, you can bring it down, download the code, build your own Midjourney on your local device, and then you're not paying anything. And you can tailor-made the prompts. In other words, you can train Midjourney because you're using the same type of prompts over and over again because you're building the same kind of output. In my case, graphic novels over and over again. I'm not trying to paint pictures, and I'm not trying to do photographic enhancements. I'm just doing this one thing. So you just train it to do this one thing really well, and it'll always do it really well, because you trained it.
Okay, legalities. Taking that code is not.
No, it's open source. It's open source code, just like Linux. I mean, it's that's the beauty of it used to be the beauty of the web is you had open source code. Most of the servers that are running on the web, they're Unix based off of, Linux, and Linux came from Unix. It's all open source code. You take it. You tweak it.
That's cool. Wow. Okay.
So I guess we covered this. I think so, right?
Yeah. So I guess we're leaning towards adapting and adopting AI in our writing and in our marketing and in our practices. And Eddie, you and I will be here to put out the warnings and the cautions and things to look out for. But we'll just continue to, share the advances and as they come and how they can help you in additional episodes. So be sure to subscribe and click the like button if you want to help us out for other people to find us. That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, if you've got questions about any of this that you'd like for us to be guinea pigs on, and this is one of those times when I will say, Diana, this is one of those cases where we're not the experts, right? We are just two people that are willing to learn about AI, which means we're going to make mistakes. We're going to make misstatements. We're going to state things maybe that probably shouldn't have been said because we don't know. We are learning, right?
But we're learning with you. We were learning for you.
Right. So, we don't have any problem if you come back and want to correct us because, something we said is wrong or something was immoral, let us know. We're not trying to deceive anybody. We're not trying to hurt anybody. So, but I do feel like if you do put your head in the sand, you're going to get buried under the sand.
Right. That's true. Yeah. Catch the wave.
Yeah. Catch the wave. Catch the wave. Well, this has been fun. Next week, we'll have another exciting episode, and hopefully we won't talk about AI. We'll talk about something as mundane as how to close your story, something like that.
That sounds good. Sounds great. See you next week, everybody. Have a good week.